Have you ever stood at your window, watching a massive storm roll in, completely paralyzed by the thought that your entire garden is about to be destroyed? You have spent months watering, weeding, and caring for those plants, and now it feels like nature is about to wash all that hard work away. But what if I told you that everything you believe about storm preparation is wrong? You do not need hours of backbreaking labor to save your harvest. In fact, if you know exactly what to do, you can protect your entire vegetable patch in just 5 focused minutes. In this video, we are going to reveal the ultimate rapid response strategy to secure your garden right before heavy rains hit. We will expose a massive myth about how plants actually react to rainwater, and I promise you by the end of this video, you will have a foolproof action plan. Do you think a little extra rain is always a blessing for your garden? Let me know your thoughts in the comments right now, because the truth might actually shock you. Before we dive into the action plan, we need to understand exactly what happens to a garden when a sudden heavy downpour strikes. For centuries, farmers have dreaded the monsoon season, and for good reason. It is not just about the water. When a severe storm hits, your garden faces a brutal combination of soil erosion, suffocating roots, and wind damage. In a normal, gentle shower, the soil acts like a sponge, slowly absorbing nutrients and moisture. But during extreme weather, that sponge gets completely overwhelmed in a matter of seconds. The water pools on the surface, cutting off vital oxygen to the plant roots. At the exact same time, fierce winds batter the heavy, fruit-laden stems, causing them to snap in half. This is not just a modern problem. Ancient agricultural societies actually built elaborate terraces and drainage ditches, specifically to survive these rapid weather changes. Today, we do not need to build giant earthworks. We just need to understand the physics of a storm to outsmart it in mere minutes. Let us talk about the exact moment you realize a massive storm is rolling in. You look at the dark clouds, and panic starts to set in. You might think you need hours to prepare, but let us look at the reality of the situation. The truth is, you only need about 5 focused minutes to secure your garden if you know exactly what to do. Imagine you have a beautiful patch of tomatoes that you have been nurturing for 3 long months. A sudden heavy downpour can snap those stems in seconds. But what if I told you that a simple, rapid fire checklist could prevent 90% of that damage? The key here is not panicking, but acting with surgical precision. We are going to focus on triage. Just like an emergency room doctor, you need to identify the most critical vulnerabilities in your garden immediately. You do not have time to pull weeds, and you certainly do not have time to build a permanent greenhouse structure. You have exactly 5 minutes to perform high-impact actions. This is about working smart, not hard, right as the first drops of rain start to fall. Think of this as your gardening fire drill. By memorizing these next steps, you will transform from a helpless bystander into a proactive protector of your harvest. Many people freeze when they hear thunder, assuming nature will just take its course. But nature is ruthless, and your cultivated vegetables need your immediate help right now. Now, let us debunk a massive myth right off the bat. Most people believe that rain is always a wonderful blessing for plants. We have this romanticized idea that plants are constantly thirsty and will happily drink up as much water as the sky provides. But here is the dangerous truth. Heavy, continuous rain can actually drown your plants. Yes, plants can drown just like people. Roots need oxygen to survive, and when the soil becomes completely saturated and waterlogged, all those tiny air pockets in the dirt disappear. It is exactly like trying to breathe underwater. To illustrate this, imagine taking your favorite indoor houseplant and submerging the entire pot in a bucket of water for 3 days. It would rot and die, right? That is exactly what a torrential downpour does to your garden beds. The roots begin to suffocate, and within 24 hours, root rot can set in. Once root rot starts, it is nearly impossible to reverse, and your beautiful harvest will literally collapse from the ground up. Understanding this oxygen deprivation is the very first step in saving your crops. You are not just fighting the wind, you are fighting the sudden loss of oxygen beneath the soil. This realization alone should change the way you view an incoming storm. So how do we stop the roots from drowning? Your very first action in that 5-minute window is establishing rapid drainage. You need to create an emergency exit route for all that incoming water. Grab your shovel or a hoe and rush to the lowest point of your garden beds. You are going to use the trenching method. In about 60 seconds, you can carve a shallow trench away from your most prized plants, directing the water toward a safe runoff area like a lawn or a gravel path. Think of this like building a moat around a sandcastle at the beach. You are giving the destructive wave a place to go that is not directly into your delicate structures. You do not need to dig deep. Even a groove that is just 2 or 3 inches deep can redirect hundreds of gallons of water during a flash storm. Many beginners ignore drainage, hoping the soil will just handle it. But clay-heavy soils, in particular, will simply turn into a swimming pool. By spending just 1 minute dragging your tool through the dirt to create a channel, you are effectively installing an emergency plumbing system for your garden. This single action is arguably the most important physical step you can take to preserve the root health of your harvest. Moving on to the next crucial minute, we need to talk about protecting the surface of your soil. Heavy raindrops do not just bring water, they act like tiny, high-speed hammers smashing into your garden beds. This constant pounding causes severe soil compaction and washes away your precious, nutrient-rich topsoil. This is where emergency mulching comes into play. If you have a pile of straw, wood chips, or even dried leaves nearby, you have exactly what you need. Quickly spread a thick layer over the exposed dirt around the base of your plants. This mulch acts like a suit of armor for your soil. It absorbs the kinetic energy of the falling rain, preventing the dirt from splashing up and keeping the soil structure loose and breathable. Imagine dropping a heavy bowling ball onto a bare concrete floor versus dropping it onto a thick, soft mattress. The mattress absorbs the shock completely. That is exactly what mulch does for your delicate topsoil. It stops the rapid erosion that can literally wash the foundation out from under your vegetables. If you do not have traditional mulch, even laying down some thick cardboard or old newspapers around the base of the plants can provide a temporary shield that will save you weeks of recovery work later. With the soil protected, it is time to look up at your taller plants. Your 3rd minute is entirely dedicated to securing your heavy hitters. I am talking about tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, and any tall flowers. These plants are incredibly top-heavy, especially when they are loaded with nearly ripe fruit. When the wind picks up and the rain adds extra weight to the leaves, the main stems can snap like dry twigs. You must tie them down immediately. Grab some soft garden twine, old strips of cotton fabric, or even zip ties if you are in a massive rush. Secure the main stems to their stakes or cages. Do not tie them too tightly. You want to allow a little bit of sway, but you absolutely must prevent them from bending in half. Think of this like securing the mast of a sailing ship right before a hurricane hits. If the mast is loose, the wind will tear the whole ship apart. By reinforcing the main structural support of your plants, you are ensuring they can ride out the violent gusts without suffering catastrophic breaks. A snapped tomato stem means losing every single piece of fruit on that branch. Taking 60 seconds to reinforce your ties will guarantee that your tallest plants remain standing when the sky finally clears. Here is a secret tactic that many veteran gardeners swear by, and it takes less than a minute. We call it the emergency early harvest. Right before the storm hits, grab a basket and rapidly pick any fruit or vegetable that is even close to being ripe. Look for tomatoes that are just starting to turn red, or peppers that are full-sized but still green. Why do we do this? Because heavy rain causes a massive, sudden influx of water into the plant. The roots suck up this water faster than the skin of the fruit can stretch. The result? Your beautiful, nearly perfect tomatoes will split completely open, ruining them for good. It is exactly like filling a water balloon until it bursts. The skin simply cannot handle the sudden internal pressure. By harvesting the fruit a few days early, you are removing them from this danger zone. Furthermore, taking the heavy fruit off the plant reduces the overall weight on the branches, making the plant much less likely to snap in the wind. Do not worry about the flavor. Tomatoes and many other fruits will happily finish ripening on your kitchen counter indoors. This rapid harvest step is a double victory. You save the produce from splitting, and you protect the structural integrity of the plant itself. Now, what do we do about the extremely delicate plants? Things like soft leafy greens, baby spinach, or fragile herbs will get completely shredded by heavy rain and hail. For these, you need physical barriers. In your 4th minute, pull out your emergency covers. This could be a specialized row cover, a lightweight tarp, or even just inverted plastic buckets and laundry baskets. Drop these covers directly over your most vulnerable patches. If you are using a tarp, make sure you secure the edges with heavy rocks or bricks so the wind does not turn it into a giant kite. Covering plants is like handing them a sturdy umbrella in a hurricane. It completely deflects the physical damage of the storm. However, you must be incredibly careful not to crush the plants with the cover itself. If you use a tarp, drape it over some stakes or hoops so it hovers above the leaves. The goal is to break the force of the rain, not to smash the vegetables into the mud. This simple physical shield is often the only thing standing between a perfect row of lettuce and a shredded, muddy disaster. Just remember, as soon as the storm passes and the sun comes out, you must remove these covers immediately to prevent overheating. Let us shift our focus to the potted plants and containers scattered around your patio or garden. Container gardening is wonderful, but pots are uniquely vulnerable during a massive downpour. Because they have a limited volume of soil, they can become completely flooded in a matter of minutes. If the drainage holes at the bottom get clogged, your potted plants will literally turn into buckets of mud. Your job right now is container triage. First, identify the most expensive or fragile potted plants and simply drag them under an awning, onto a covered porch, or into a garage. For the heavier pots that you cannot move, you need to tilt them. Shove a brick, a block of wood, or a rock under one side of the heavy pot so it sits at a steep angle. This simple tilt drastically increases the drainage speed and prevents water from pooling on the top of the soil. Imagine trying to empty a wide bowl of water. If it is perfectly flat, the water stays put, but tip it slightly, and it rushes out. By tilting your containers, you are utilizing gravity to pull the excess rain away from the vulnerable root systems. This quick adjustment takes only seconds per pot, but completely saves them from drowning. There is a silent killer that arrives with heavy rain, and it is not the water itself. It is the mud. When heavy raindrops hit bare soil, they create a chaotic splashing effect. This splashing throws mud high up onto the undersides of your plant leaves. Why is this a disaster? Because that soil is packed with dormant fungal spores, particularly the devastating early blight and septoria leaf spot. When these spores are splashed onto the wet leaves, they stick, and the disease begins to spread like wildfire. Within a week, your vibrant green leaves will turn yellow, develop black spots, and die off. Preventing this soil splash is absolutely vital. If you did not have time to lay down mulch as we discussed earlier, you can use a rapid alternative. Take any broad, flat objects you have laying around, like old wooden boards, pieces of scrap metal, or even large cardboard boxes broken down flat, and lay them directly on the soil walkways between your plants. You are essentially creating a clean floor. By covering the bare earth near the lower leaves, you completely eliminate the splash zone. It is like putting down a protective tarp before painting a ceiling. This bizarre-looking but highly effective trick will stop deadly fungal infections before they even have a chance to take hold. Here is a very common mistake that well-meaning gardeners make right before a storm. They look at the dark clouds and think, "Oh, the rain is coming. This is the perfect time to apply fertilizer." They believe the rain will wash the nutrients deep into the soil. Do not do this. Applying any kind of liquid or granular fertilizer right before a severe downpour is a terrible idea. Instead of gently soaking into the root zone, the sheer volume of water will wash the fertilizer completely away. It will run off into the drainage ditches, out into the street, and eventually into local waterways where it causes harmful algae blooms. You are literally flushing your hard-earned money down the drain. Think of it like pouring expensive maple syrup onto a pancake that is sitting under a running fire hose. None of it is going to stick. If you have any fertilizer schedules planned for the day, cancel them immediately. Save those valuable nutrients for a day or two after the storm has passed, when the soil is damp but no longer flooded. At that point, the roots will be desperate for nutrition to repair any minor damage, and your fertilizer will actually stay exactly where you put it. Keep your chemicals in the shed during this 5-minute prep. Sometimes, the best way to save a plant is to perform emergency surgery. If you have large bushes or heavily branched plants that are totally overgrown, they act like giant sails catching the wind. The more leaves and branches they have, the more wind resistance they create, which drastically increases the chance of the main trunk snapping. Grab your pruning shears and perform a rapid, aggressive thinning. Snip off any dead branches, excess lower foliage, or overly long stems that are whipping around. Do not worry about making perfect, pretty cuts right now. You are reducing the overall surface area of the plant. Returning to our sailing ship analogy, this is exactly why sailors pull down the sails during a squall. If you leave all the canvas up, the boat will flip. By quickly thinning out the canopy of your largest plants, you allow the violent winds to blow right through the branches instead of pushing against them as a solid wall. This emergency pruning is incredibly effective for large tomato bushes, pepper plants, and top-heavy ornamentals. It might feel counterintuitive to chop at your plants to save them, but sacrificing a few minor branches to save the entire root system is a trade you should make every single time. We have talked about protecting the plants directly, but what about manipulating the environment around them? If you know the storm is coming from a specific direction, you can build an instant windbreak. You do not need to build a wooden fence. Look around your yard for large, sturdy objects. Grab your wheelbarrow and tip it on its side, facing the wind. Line up your plastic trash cans, fill them with a bit of water for weight, and create a barricade. If you have a patio table, turn it completely on its side to block the incoming gusts. You are building a temporary shield wall to protect your most fragile crops. This is a classic tactic used in extreme environments. Even a solid barrier that is only 3 feet tall can create a massive pocket of calm air behind it. The wind hits the wheelbarrow, deflects upwards, and completely misses the delicate lettuce or young seedlings hiding just behind it. It might make your garden look like a chaotic junkyard for a few hours, but this unconventional barricade system is incredibly effective at stopping wind shear. When the storm passes, you just put your trash cans and wheelbarrow back where they belong. Zero cost, maximum protection. Let us take a moment to debunk another incredibly dangerous practice. In a panic, some people will grab plastic garbage bags or cling wrap and completely seal their plants inside to keep them dry. This is one of the worst things you can possibly do. When you wrap a living plant tightly in plastic, you are creating an instant, suffocating death trap. Yes, it stops the rain, but it also completely cuts off airflow. The moment the sun cracks through the clouds, even for 10 minutes, the temperature inside that plastic bag will skyrocket. The humidity will hit 100%, and the plant will literally boil in its own microclimate. It is exactly like putting on a thick plastic raincoat on a sweltering, humid summer day. You will pass out from the heat. Fungal diseases absolutely thrive in these sealed, wet, stagnant environments. If you must use plastic sheeting to deflect rain, It must be draped like a tent with wide open sides to allow constant air circulation. Never tie a plastic bag shut around the base of a stem. Remember, plants need to breathe just as much as they need to stay safe from the pounding water. Proper ventilation is non-negotiable, even in the middle of a massive thunderstorm. While you are running around securing the plants, you must not forget the unsung heroes of your garden, your tools. It is incredibly easy to leave your expensive shears, shovels, and hoes lying in the dirt while you rush inside to escape the rain. But leaving metal tools out in a torrential downpour is a guaranteed way to ruin them. The heavy rain washes away the protective oils, and within hours rust will begin to form on the joints and blades. A rusty pair of pruners will tear plant tissue instead of making a clean cut, which introduces disease into your garden later on. In your final minute of preparation, scoop up every single tool you can find. Throw them into a bucket and put them in the shed or garage. Imagine leaving a beautiful, well-oiled bicycle out in the rain for a week. The chain would seize up entirely. Your gardening tools require the exact same respect. It takes exactly 10 seconds to grab that shovel, but it will save you the cost of buying a new one next season. Furthermore, leaving tools hidden in the mud is a massive safety hazard when you come back out to inspect the damage later. Clean up your workspace as part of your emergency lockdown. What about the vegetables that are hiding underground? You might think your carrots, potatoes, and onions are perfectly safe because they are buried, but extreme storms are notorious for causing rapid topsoil runoff. As the water rushes over the beds, it washes the dirt away, suddenly exposing the tops of your root vegetables to the open air. For potatoes, this is an absolute disaster. When a potato tuber is exposed to light, it turns green and produces a toxic compound called solanine, rendering the entire potato completely inedible. To prevent this, grab your hoe and quickly hill up the dirt around the base of these plants. Just pull the loose soil from the pathways and mound it up thick and high right over the root zone. You are essentially tucking them deep into bed with an extra thick blanket of earth. This extra layer ensures that even if an inch of topsoil washes away in the flood, your precious root vegetables will remain safely hidden in the dark. It is a rapid, preventative measure that guarantees your underground harvest will not be ruined by sudden exposure to the harsh elements. As we secure our covers and barricades, we must talk about the importance of airflow. I mentioned earlier not to seal plants in plastic, but this rule applies to all your protective measures. Even if you are using breathable fabrics or tarps, you must ensure there is a gap between the cover and the ground. Why is this so critical? Because after the heavy rain stops, the air will be incredibly thick and saturated with moisture. If there is no wind moving through your plants, that stagnant, damp air becomes the ultimate breeding ground for powdery mildew and botrytis blight. Think of a damp, dark basement that has zero ventilation. Mold grows almost instantly on the walls. Your garden beds will react the exact same way. When you stake down your tarps or covers, purposely leave the sides facing away from the wind slightly open. Create a tunnel effect. This allows the fresh breeze to sweep through the underside of the canopy, drying the leaves quickly once the storm passes. By actively managing the airflow during your 5-minute prep, you are fighting off the secondary diseases that often kill plants long after the actual storm has ended. Here is an advanced strategy that takes zero extra time during the actual storm, but requires a tiny bit of forethought. It is the concept of sacrificial or shield plants. If you know a certain corner of your yard always gets battered by prevailing winds during a storm, you should plant your toughest, most resilient crops there. Thick-stalked corn, massive sunflowers, or dense berry bushes can act as a permanent, living windbreak. When the 5-minute warning hits, you do not have to worry about that side of the garden because the shield plants are already doing the heavy lifting. They take the brutal hits, allowing the fragile peppers and lettuce hiding behind them to survive untouched. It is like having a big brother standing in front of a little sibling to block a snowball. The sunflowers might lose a few petals or leaves, but their deep roots and thick trunks will hold steady. Utilizing strong companion plants to manipulate the microclimate of your garden is the hallmark of a master gardener. When the sirens go off, you will have peace of mind knowing your garden has its own built-in defense system ready to engage. In the chaos of preparing the garden beds, many people completely forget to look at where the water is coming from outside the garden. Specifically, look at your roof and gutters. A massive amount of rain is going to hit your house, run down the shingles, and blast out of your downspouts. If those downspouts are pointed directly at your vegetable patch, your plants are going to be hit by a literal waterfall. No amount of mulch or covers will save them from that concentrated hydraulic pressure. It is like pointing a fire hose at a delicate flower arrangement. Take 30 seconds right now to check your gutter extensions. Kick them sideways, attach a flexible drain pipe, or place a large bucket directly under the spout to catch the initial surge. Redirecting this massive volume of water away from your growing zones is absolutely critical. You can have the most perfectly prepared garden in the world, but if the runoff from your roof floods the area, all your hard work is ruined. Managing the external water sources is just as important as protecting the soil itself. As your 5 minutes are up and the first heavy drops begin to fall, you need to shift your mindset to the post-storm recovery. The preparation is done, but the job is not over. While you are sitting safely inside watching the rain, plan your walk through. The moment the lightning stops and the sky clears, you need to be the first one back out there. Why? Because water will be pooling in places you did not expect, covers will be weighed down with puddles, and some plants might be leaning dangerously. You have to remove the tarps immediately to stop the plants from baking in the rising humidity. You need to gently shake the excess water off the heavy flower heads so they do not snap under the lingering weight. Think of yourself as a detective arriving at a scene. You are assessing the damage, draining the temporary puddles, and retying any lines that slipped during the wind. This immediate follow-up is the final, crucial step of the storm protocol. If you leave the protective covers on for 2 days after the rain stops, you will do more damage than the storm ever could. The quick response afterward seals the victory. Ultimately, the value of these 5 minutes cannot be overstated. When you look at the total time you invest in gardening, from planting seeds indoors to transplanting, weeding, and watering daily over 3 months, you are investing hundreds of hours of your life. All of that dedicated labor, all of that hope for a beautiful organic harvest can be completely erased in a 20-minute monsoon. By memorizing this rapid response checklist, checking the drainage, applying emergency mulch, tying down the heavy stems, and harvesting early, you are buying an insurance policy for your food supply. The compound effect of these tiny actions is massive. You are not just saving a few tomatoes, you are saving your entire season's yield. This is the difference between a frustrated hobbyist who constantly complains about the weather and a resilient gardener who works in harmony with nature's extremes. Nature is unpredictable, but your response does not have to be. With these strategies, you hold the power to defend your plot. So, the next time the sky turns dark and the thunder rolls, do not panic. Grab your gear, start the clock, and get to work. And there you have it, the ultimate plot twist in garden care. You do not need expensive greenhouses or hours of back-breaking labor to outsmart Mother Nature. The shocking truth is that swift, decisive action in just 5 minutes focusing on drainage, structural support, and preventing suffocation is entirely enough to save months of hard work from total ruin. By treating an incoming storm like a rapid triage situation, you transform from a victim of the weather into the master of your harvest. Remember, it is not the water that kills the garden, it is the lack of preparation for the water's brutal force. If this video helped you build confidence to face the next big storm, please hit that subscribe button, leave a like, and share it with a friend who loves growing their own food. I want to hear from you. What is the craziest weather event you have ever battled in your own backyard, and did your plants survive? Drop your story in the comments below, and let us keep growing together.